The Washington Commanders. Now, in the coming days and weeks, make sure you check out our TikTok at pfn.365. I have a couple of TikToks coming out that kind of roast the Commanders in a sense. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, obviously, with the Stitch feature and the duet feature that we have there on TikTok. But getting to the Commanders mock draft right here, round one, pick number 11. We talk about Ohio State. And in this one, you have them taking Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, out of Ohio State. This is a great addition alongside Scary Terry and Dyami Brown here. Tell us a little bit more on the reasoning of these picks.
Yeah, and I think, I didn't plan it to work out this way. I wasn't actually thinking of it, but we got both Olave and Garrett Wilson on the same PFN Daily here, so we can talk a little bit about how they compare. I think it's more up to a matter of preference as to who you have ranked above the other. I've seen, about 50-50, one way or the other, Wilson versus Olave. But the reason I like Wilson better is because I think stylistically, you are working with more upside there. He's a much more sudden, explosive route runner, more twitchy. That translates after the catch too, where he can make guys miss. He can get into open space. And then at the catch point as well, I think he's a little better at working against contact. With Chris Olave, it's a lot of using his speed to dissect defenses, and he's very good at that. He's very nuanced, very technical, very smart, intelligent route runner. But with Garrett Wilson, there were times, and he can be more efficient for sure. Olave has an edge on him there, but there were times when he was experimenting a lot with his twitch and his suddenness, trying to get into DB's blind spots and then cutting back really suddenly. And he can do that. He can be an absolute menace as a route runner. Still has a way to streamline and channel that. But I think for Washington especially, you look at, trading for Carson Wentz, right? After they traded for Carson Wentz, as much as I would say, I wasn't a fan of the move, now that they've done it, you got to maximize his attack, his weaponry, right? So doing that, the best way to do that is to get a wide receiver early on and support him. And I think Garrett Wilson provides the best upside there, that 3-level threat, creating before the catch, creating at the catch point, and getting yards after catch. He can do all of that.
Nah, it makes a lot of sense too. Like, honestly, what's scary about this is that we've talked about a guy getting drafted at, pick 11 here. We talked about with the Houston Texans, back I was pick 13, I believe. They weren't even the best receiver, arguably, on Ohio State. Like, Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be the guy that kind of resets what we saw about this entire class. And even Jameson Williams was a guy who transferred away from this team. It is just an incredible amount of talent that was on the Ohio State wide receiver core. And honestly, it's kind of nice to see Washington get away from this. We have to go defensive in the first round. Like, they spent all these years going after that. The only pick they didn't do, I think, since like 2016, 2017, was actually the Dwayne Haskins pick. Outside of that, it has always been, defensive players in the first round. So to see them kind of going towards the offensive side of things, I think it's a step in the right direction. You kind of had them continuing this, coming up here with pick 47. They're getting a little backfield help, which I think is a really interesting pick here with Kenneth Walker, the running back out of Michigan State. I know you love Kenneth Walker. I know a lot of people see Kenneth Walker as the number one running back of this class, even over top of someone like Breece Hall as the best pure runner. How do you like this fit between Kenneth Walker and Antonio Gibson, who is still kind of there as one of the better running backs in the NFL? You also have J.D. McKissick, who came back after spurning the Buffalo Bills. How do you see this whole dynamic kind of shaping out for the Commanders' backfield?
Yeah, me personally, I wouldn't make this pick. I would probably wait until, day 3 to pick a running back if I'm Washington. But They have been hosting running backs on visits, and this is a team that takes those visits into account when they're making selections. They hosted Breece Hall, and they hosted Kenneth Walker on a visit too. So they're showing a little bit of interest in that sense, and maybe taking one day 2. Look at Antonio Gibson, has the talent, has the versatility, but hasn't quite panned out as that all-around back that they were looking for. The vision, the instincts aren't quite there in the capacity that they are with Kenneth Walker. And I think that's where it starts, right? You mentioned, potentially being the best runner in the class. I think he is the best pure runner in the class. When you look at, what are you looking for in a runner? Obviously, explosiveness to hit lanes, the agility to make quick cuts and stack cuts in rapid succession. He's got all that. He's got very good balance. And I say balance, not just contact balance, because he has the contact balance as well, but also getting really low on your cuts and generating that potential energy and launching out of that. He's very good at leaning and stacking those cuts and keeping that balance all the way through. And that's something that really shows up a lot. And then on top of that, he's got the vision and the instincts to maximize that energy and that ability. So the game against Michigan was a clinic, and I think he ran for over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, but that was a clinic of something creating like space. Yeah, something like that. I'm sorry, Tommy. I don't mean to judge up bad memories.
It's fine.
Or maybe I do. I don't know, but we'll see. But I do think you look at the creative capacity that he has, it's all there. And so I think the receiving upside, that's a little ambiguous, right? But he did well in the gauntlet. I think it was more of a volume issue with him. So I'm interested to see what he does in the NFL. But if you're looking for a pure runner, which I think Washington, that's one thing that they lack, is a pure, early down runner who can create for himself. Kenneth Walker's that guy.
Well, in round 4, pick 113, they definitely address a position of need for them too, with Cam Taylor-Britt, cornerback out of Nebraska, and a prospect that's been making, a lot of headlines himself in terms of some potential and maybe where he ends up, especially in the round 3, round 4 conversation. But this is especially important for this Washington Commanders team that legitimately gave up 34 passing touchdowns last season. Kind of uncharacteristic of what we expect in a Ron Rivera defense. Now, granted, they have a lot of different guys playing anywhere. You have Fuller, you have Benjamin St. Juice, but obviously this addition now of Cam Taylor-Britt, I think, is pretty big in terms of maybe where they can go as an overall unit. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that was kind of the overarching theme with this pick is the versatility, the flexibility that he provides you. Obviously, Taylor-Britt played a lot of boundary corner at Nebraska, but he can go into the slot. He can play safety even. I think he fits best in the slot here. I think that's where he'd go with Washington because you do have William Jackson and Kendall Fuller on the boundaries. Benjamin Sanju, more of a rotational guy at this point, but he does have the press.
You like him too. I know that.
Yeah, I liked him, man. I mean, he was an interesting evaluation from an athletic standpoint because really big, really long, not very explosive, but super fluid. I mean, you don't expect that from bigger guys, but he's got that. He's physical too, so I hope he pans out. But I think at this moment, getting to Cam Taylor-Britt, I think it's a valuable move because I don't think it necessarily threatens the development of St. Juice because they are different players. You put Taylor-Britt in the slot, let him be that versatile player who has the length and the closing speed and the physicality to really hold up his end there. He's not the most fluid guy, so I wouldn't want him on the boundary on an island. But I do love him in the slot, kind of working from there, maybe shading back to safety. He has that versatility, and he's phenomenal in run support too. That's more of a bonus for corners, but I love seeing guys who come downhill with a ton of heat and aren't afraid to tackle, and that's Cam Taylor-Britt. And on top of that, he's a playmaker. I love the pick, and I think that he could be a really good slot defender for them.
Yeah, and sitting here looking at the rest of the end of the Washington Commanders 7-round mock draft, we have them addressing the quarterback position. Once again, more of a depth addition here with Caleb Elby, the quarterback out of Western Michigan here in the 6th round. Then in round 7, pick 230, Nolan Turner, the safety out of Clemson. And then in round 7, pick 240 to end off their mock draft, Andrew Ogletree, the tight end out of Youngstown State.
A lot of intriguing prospects and picks here for the Washington Commanders. If you're a Commanders fan, let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Make sure you smash that like button as well for the algorithm.